I've always loved places that make most people uneasy. Deep woods, empty lakes, desert backroads. Anywhere with long stretches of silence, where you can feel how small you really are. That's exactly why the Florida Everglades had been on my list for years. Not the tourist version, where families ride airboats and take pictures of alligators from a safe distance. I wanted the real Everglades, the endless maze of blackwater trails, mangrove islands, sawgrass flats, and isolated backcountry campsites where once the sun goes down, you are truly alone. Or at least, you think you are. This happened 3 years ago, in late October. My friend Tyler and I had been fishing together since high school. We were both in our late 20s then, both obsessed with bass fishing, always looking for weird places to explore. Tyler was the kind of guy who feared absolutely nothing. He had slept in bear country in Montana, free-climbed cliffs in Utah, and once got stranded overnight on a broken duck boat in Louisiana, and somehow treated it like a funny story. So when I sent him a link showing floating backcountry campsites in the Everglades National Park, he immediately agreed. They're exactly what they sound like, too. Wooden platforms built over shallow water, where campers can pitch tents because there's no dry land for miles. They're called chickees, raised platforms with roofs, accessible only by boat or kayak. The photos online looked incredible. A wooden deck surrounded by endless swamp, water, no roads, no people, just fishing, and complete isolation. At the time, it sounded perfect, but now I can barely look at those pictures without feeling sick. We launched our small aluminum fishing boat from the marina that morning, just after the sunrise. The weather was perfect, a little bit cool for Florida, clear skies with a slight breeze. We had rods rigged for largemouth bass, snook, and tarpon, enough food for one night, beer packed in coolers, and a little bit too much confidence. The marina disappeared behind us as we pushed deeper into the maze of mangrove tunnels. The Everglades immediately felt different from any wilderness I'd ever been in. It wasn't just quiet, it felt ancient. The water was dark and completely still in some areas, while other channels moved with strange currents. Mangrove roots twisted out of the water like skeletal fingers. Birds would erupt from the trees without warning. Every now and then, we'd pass an alligator, drifting like a piece of floating wood before it suddenly submerged. By noon, we had reached our campsite. The chickee sat alone in open water, surrounded by mangroves about 50 yards away in every direction. It had a roof overhead and enough room for 2 tents. That was it. No electricity, just that and a porta potty. There was no escape except the boat tied to the dock. And at first, it felt amazing. We spent that afternoon catching fish nonstop. Snook, redfish, small tarpon, hell, even a few catfish. And by sunset, we were exhausted, but thrilled. The sky turned orange and purple over the water. It was one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever seen. We probably should have returned to camp then, but instead, we decided to stay out for some nighttime fishing. And that decision changed everything. Around 7:15 p.m., we moved into a smaller channel that we hadn't explored yet. The mangroves grew thicker there. The water became darker. Our boat lights reflected off the surface in strange ways. And at first, everything seemed normal. We were catching decent fish, listening to the insects, enjoying the quiet. Then I heard something large moving in the mangroves behind us. It wasn't splashing. It didn't sound like a gator. It sounded heavier. You could hear branches snapping, the mud shifting, and fast movement. I turned my headlamp towards the shore, but I saw nothing except the mangrove trunks. I assumed maybe it was a deer. But then it happened again, a little bit closer, and then again, even closer than that. Something barreled through the brush with shocking speed. The movement stopped the second I shined my light. What followed was complete silence. Tyler took a look towards the shoreline as well. Even in the darkness, I could tell his posture changed. He had heard it, but we'd stayed still. Then whatever it was began moving again. It began to parallel our boat. Every time we drifted forward, it moved with us, stopping wherever we stopped. I told myself it was a hog. Florida's got plenty of those. But that explanation lasted maybe 30 seconds. After that, we heard a sound that we still can't properly describe. It started low, almost like a growl. Then it rose into this warped, demonic screech that sounded deeply wrong, like multiple animal noises happening at the same time. It echoed through the mangroves. Tyler immediately started the boat motor. That alone terrified me, because he never panics. We sped out of the channel without saying much, and the sound followed us, but it stopped after just a little bit. By the time we got back to our chickie platform around 8 p.m., both of us were trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a large boar, who knows? But neither of us truly believed that. Still, we weren't ready to abandon the trip. That felt overly dramatic, embarrassing even. So we tied off the boat, set up our tent, cooked our food, drank a few beers, tried to laugh it off. But the Everglades, they felt different now. The darkness seemed heavier. The sounds around us were amplified. The fish splashing, the insects screaming, and then something large occasionally disturbing the water. Every sound made me tense. Around midnight, we finally crawled into the tent. I remember staring through the mesh ceiling, listening, waiting. At some point, I finally fell asleep, but I woke up to Tyler violently shaking my shoulder. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. Then I heard it. Movement behind our tent. In the mangroves roughly 30 yards from the platform. There was heavy movement, and fast. Something tearing through the brush. It was circling, and stopping, and then exploding into motion again. My entire body locked up. It was the exact same sound from earlier. Except now, it was closer. Much closer. And we were trapped. That platform suddenly felt microscopic. The noises moved towards the water, and then they stopped. Following was complete silence. I remember hearing my own heartbeat, and then a splash. Something entered the water, and it was big, very big. It began moving towards the chickie. I could hear the sound of water pushing. It was slow at first, then it picked up speed. Something struck one of the support pilings underneath the platform, and the entire structure vibrated. Tyler scrambled for his flashlight, and I unzipped the tent door. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely function. We shined our lights over the edge, but we couldn't see anything. It was just black water. Then, from directly behind us, that scream pierced through the night once again. Except this time, it sounded almost human, like something trying and failing to mimic a person screaming. I felt every hair on my body stand up. And then, the sound turned into a deep, demonic growl, wet breathing, and rapid movement. Whatever it was now running circles through the mangroves behind us, with impossible speed. The branches were snapping non-stop. Water was splashing, with nothing but growling and screaming. And then finally, it stopped. I became convinced that we were about to die. Not from logic, but from instinct. Every survival alarm in my body was screaming that we needed to leave immediately. Tyler apparently felt the same. Neither of us discussed it. We moved purely out of panic. We grabbed our coolers, tackle boxes, our boat keys, wallets, phones. But we left the sleeping bags and the tent. The sound behind us intensified as we loaded the boat. I could hear heavy breathing from somewhere in the darkness, close enough that it sounded like it was on the platform with us. I refused to look directly behind me. I knew if I saw something standing there, I'd completely lose control. Tyler untied the boat while I shoved our gear inside. Something slammed into the mangroves directly behind our campsite. Then came the loudest roar yet. It was deep, demonic, animalistic, completely wrong. Whatever it was, didn't belong out there. Tyler fired up the motor, and it sputtered, and for one horrifying second, it didn't want to start. And I truly believed that was the end of us. But then, it roared to life, and we peeled away from the platform at full speed. As we turned away, I looked back once. The chicky platform sat under the moonlight. Our tent remained standing, and something massive was moving behind it. I didn't see a body, just darkness, shifting unnaturally fast between the mangrove trees. Then, 2 reflective eyes appeared low to the ground, but they vanished instantly. We didn't stop driving until we reached the marina near sunrise, and the park rangers met us after seeing how frantic we were when we showed up. We told them everything, but they assumed that we encountered a large animal, maybe a panther or an alligator. But their explanations sounded weak, even to them. One ranger quietly admitted he'd heard strange reports from remote campers before. People hearing things moving around camps at night, strange screams, objects disturbed, but no one has ever found proof. They retrieved our abandoned tent later that day. According to them, it had been shredded. Not collapsed, not damaged by weather, but shredded. There were long tears through the fabric, deep punctures in the coolers we left behind, scratch marks on the plastic containers. There were no clear tracks, no photos, no evidence of anything that could have done this. Tyler never went back to the Everglades after that. He sold his boat the following year, and he still refuses to discuss that night. As for me, I still fish, I still camp, but I won't return to the Everglades either. And I will never forget that thing we heard moving through the swamp. The worst part is not knowing what it was. It's knowing how intelligent it seemed. It followed us. It waited. And when we were the most vulnerable, it came for us. Sometimes, I wake up around 3 a.m. and lie completely still in bed. And in those moments, I swear I can hear it again. The branches snapping, the water moving, that low demonic growl, rising into something almost human, waiting just beyond the darkness. To this day, it still keeps me locked in a state of paranoia. And every once in a while in my dreams, I end up back on that platform. But I hope one day soon, I can learn to let it go, maybe resume my life in the outdoors. But until then, I'll say my prayers and do my best to get some sleep. But I'll never forget the strange night deep in the Florida Everglades.